On today's video, did Patrick Mahomes get caught by the NFL in a cheating scandal? Hardman has surgery, and Kansas City Karen takes to the KC Star to announce her candidacy for the Fun Police. All this and more. Stick around.
What's happening, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to All Chiefed Up. Today we're going to be talking about Patrick Mahomes. Did he get caught in a cheating scandal? Everyone's got the crazy tweet sent to him by Simon Charles, which I'm pretty sure is a parody account. But anyway, who's listening to a guy named Simon Charles, Mike?
What? Who's Simon Charles? This guy, this is a horrible fake. Only Bengals fans and crybaby NFL fans would fall for a guy named Simon Charles.
No kidding. Let me read the tweet real quick. It's Chiefs Super Bowl legitimacy put on hold as NFL plans to launch an investigation on possible PED use by Patrick Mahomes during halftime. Sources confirm his rapid post-game drug test came back positive, and if guilty, the Chiefs could be stripped of the win. People actually sent me this thing. They thought it was legitimate, and that just shows you how the average, passive fan of the NFL has no clue what's going on, and they'll pour fuel on the fire to these fake, stupid stories.
Dude, they're wanting the Chiefs to lose so bad. They're just making up stuff at this point. We actually had a second one come out today. This one, Steve, is even better than anything I've ever seen. If you've been on Facebook, there's been an article circulating where it looks like ESPN did it. It's got the ESPN graphics, everything. It says breaking news: Patrick Mahomes gets caught. He's now under investigation as the NFL completely overhauls its drug testing program. So this is so crazy that actually Snopes, the popular website that comes on and debunks like false rumors on the internet, they had to weigh in on this, and they said that this was actually put out by a group that registered back to something called Erexo Plus and High Pump. So this is a penis pump company that come out and said that the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, took an illegal male enhancement, and that helped them win the Super Bowl. And all these fans are buying into this, dude. This is hilarious.
Dude, that place's marketing team, A1. I mean, How perfect is that? Geniuses over there. But Mahomes, so apparently he was taking male enhancement pills, and that helped him win. I guess he was going to stab people with his penis.
I guess. I know he had a leg injury, but that's the wrong leg to be,
maybe he was trying to compensate for that bad ankle. He thought he could tripod his way up the field.
I guess so. I guess he was maybe like, if he got in a pinch, he could just do like a penis in the ground spin move and just start kicking people in the back. I don't know. But yeah, as you said, the marketing team, great. Who else, if you were a penis pump company, would you want to promote to than a bunch of butt-hurt NFL fans that just want to hate on the Chiefs? Because that's the biggest group of there are.
And while we're on the subject of ridiculous things, what about the Kansas City Karen that wrote into the KC Star, Mike?
Dude, so ridiculous. So Kansas City Karen, her real name is Janet from Liberty, Missouri. She writes into the KC Star, and she's basically complaining about Mahomes, Kelsey, everybody just drinking at the celebration, the parade for the Super Bowl. She writes, the main reason is that a drinking chief is not a good role model for young fans who are there to see their heroes. Second, even the adult fans don't want to see drunken players at this important celebration. And third, tragic things happen when drinking is involved. Okay, so look, she's right. Tragic things can happen. The closest thing to tragedy you're going to get driving 3 miles an hour on a bus for a quarter of a mile is maybe Mahomes gives a fake trophy to a fan and everybody jumps on that bandwagon too. But other than that, Steve, what do you think about it? Like, has she ever seen an NFL team that, by the way, are full of nothing but adults over the drinking age limit? Like, has she never seen a celebration before?
I mean, I understand where she's coming from with the role model thing because, kids look up to these guys. But I highly doubt kids were looking at them at the parade and being like, man, I want to drink beer like Travis Kelce, as opposed to, man, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. This is amazing. This is awesome. I get to see these guys. They look at them as football players, and, they are good people. Just because they celebrated with alcohol doesn't make them bad people. And that's just a weird kind of view to have on it. And the thing about it is we were there, Mike. 90% of the adults at the place were drinking, so their own parents were probably drinking alcohol of some sort. So, I mean, who's supposed to be the role model for these kids? Their own parents or some random NFL player that's celebrating winning the Super Bowl?
Right. I would challenge Kansas City Karen and say her or somebody in her family has probably had a beer at dinner in front of their children or in front of a child at a restaurant. Come on, this is ridiculous. If you want to start playing this game, How about giving Patrick Mahomes and everybody credit when they do act like a good role model, when they are taking a knee in the end zone to have prayer before the field, when he stays with his high school girlfriend and gets married and has 2 kids, and he's not out here causing all these problems like all these other NFL players. Nobody wants to look at him and give him positive critiques here. We just want to trash him when he has a beer because they won the Super Bowl. This is absurd and ridiculous. It's a non-story. Kansas City Karen needs to
Hey,
get off the Yelp review. Like,
Kansas City Karen could probably get a job with KC Star because they're getting really good at putting out all these stupid hit jobs on Patrick Mahomes, which is so weird because you finally got a guy in Kansas City that is, worldwide famous, like amazing, the best quarterback to ever play football potentially. And you're just running him in the ground with weird, stupid stories to get some clicks and some reads, and which I understand some of this is editorials, but you don't have to publish this stuff.
no, the Kansas City Star's ridiculous. We've already trashed them the first time. When they tried to have a guy from like Illinois come on and dog Patrick Mahomes. This is ridiculous. It doesn't need to be printed. The KC Star's failing. Can everybody in Kansas City and the Kansas area that gets that please just end it right now and end these guys? Come find news from like us. We're way better. So today, Steve, was the first day NFL squads can put on the franchise tag for players that are coming up in a contract year and they got to work out a little negotiations. Steve, do you think the Chiefs will use the franchise tag? It's already been rumored that we're probably going to have to throw it on Orlando Brown Jr. again this year. What do you think about it?
I mean, if it comes to that, we're going to have to do it. That's just all there is to it. I would love to see them get an actual contract worked out with him and keep him here for the long haul. Like we've talked about before, he's progressed into a really good left tackle. He's one of the best in the game, no matter how much people want to give him a bunch of crap for it. He really is. We saw what he did in the playoffs. Absolutely amazing. Him and Patrick Mahomes are really good buddies. He's a good fit in Kansas City. And the thing about it is, man, is he's actually the top left tackle free agent right now. So you almost have to, because if you don't go, lock him up or at least franchise tag him, I mean, there's people that want Orlando Brown on their team. Right now, he's the number one free agent left tackle. After that, you got offensive tackle Mike McGlinchey, Jawan Taylor from the Jacksonville Jaguars, Caleb McGarry from Atlanta Falcons, Isaiah Wynn from the New England Patriots. I mean, he's the only one that is really intriguing to anybody, and we don't want him going anywhere. So there's a good chance they could franchise tag him and then try to work out the contract later on, which seems to be probably what's going to happen. That's the most likely scenario, in my opinion, because I really don't see them getting any kind of long-term deal done really quick. So they'll probably go ahead and franchise tag him.
Yeah, I totally agree. You mentioned Isaiah Wynn. He was rumored to actually be talked about in a trade last year because he couldn't even start for the Patriots at some point, and he's the 4th best one on the list. That's not saying a lot. Orlando Brown Jr. is the best left tackle option Kansas City has. We do have a lot of firepower, but we're not going to trade everything we got to come up to the top 10 to 15 to take a left tackle that is a rookie. Patrick Mahomes likes Orlando Brown Jr. Orlando Brown Jr. is solid. After like week 8 or 9, this dude played at a top tier level. They had 0 sacks in the last game against the Eagles. They're just amazing. Like he's good enough to play. We've been telling people all year long, but you still have Kansas City fans going around everywhere being like, don't pay this guy. Who cares what he did in the playoffs? I actually read this one. Who cares what he did in the playoffs? The first 10 games of the season, he allowed so many pressures. But who cares about the first 10 games of the season?
I mean, how many times do you have to tell these people, like, his first year as a left tackle was last season.
Right.
So this year, it was his second year doing the left tackle position. He kept getting better and better. He's been getting better the whole time. You just got to calm down a little bit. I mean, we just won a Super Bowl with this guy as a left tackle. So how bad can it really be? I mean, obviously he's doing his job there. And like you said, what's the next best option? There isn't one. I mean, the Chiefs have to stick with Orlando Brown. That's all there is to it. It'd be stupid to move on from him. So yeah, franchise tag. And then I think they will eventually come out with a contract that's going to lock them up for long term.
Yeah, I think a lot of Kansas City fans have trouble accepting something and then moving on and being fine with it, because at the beginning of the year, it was Orlando Brown Jr. and Andrew Wiley, and everybody was crying and whining about him all year. And we were like, give him time, give him time. About week 8, week 10, week 12, somewhere in that range, Both of them flipped a switch. You never heard anything about them. They were shutting down people every week. And it's like everybody has selective. They just want to argue that Orlando Brown Jr. is not worth it. Let's go back and look at weeks 1 through 9. Let's not look at all the great things he done. It's getting to be a little bit ridiculous. Let's let Brett Veach decide whether he needs to be here. And I believe he's the best option for the Chiefs going forward.
Well, I think Veach knows what he's doing. If you haven't figured that out by now, then you just need to relax and let him work. So as we all know, Eric Bieniemy took the offensive coordinator job with the Washington Commanders, which is cool. Props to him. I hope it works out well for him. I think the Chiefs are in perfect position to just go ahead and slide Nagy in. There's also been some rumors of Cliff Kingsbury poking his head in Kansas City because of the relationship that he had with Patrick Mahomes in college. But regardless of all that, do you think some of these Chiefs players could join Eric Bieniemy in Washington, man? Because I know there's some guys on this list here that we're going to talk about that very well could be. Well, number one, let's go ahead and talk about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Do you think he could make his way over there with Eric Bieniemy to Washington?
Hey, look, you had Antonio Gibson there, and he did not work out the way they wanted. They ended up drafting the kid last year that shot himself in the leg and missed a bunch of games. What was his
Brian
name?
Robinson.
Brian Robinson. He's pretty good, but he needs a backup. They may look to deal Antonio Gibson. They may look to just add something to it. Bieniemy's offenses like to stack running backs. It's very possible we can maybe look into trading Clyde for maybe a 4th, 5th, 6th round pick. Who knows? That would not surprise me. Maybe even McCole Hardman looking to sign with their offense later on could be something they could look at, because Bieniemy was there when we drafted McCole Hardman. He's had him his entire career. If McCole Hardman doesn't take a beautiful sweetheart deal, he may be out after this year because, somebody's going to throw money at him. He's too fast and he's a playmaker, and that's what the NFL's going to.
They already have Terry McLaurin. They just drafted Jahan Dotson. They also have Curtis Samuel. But a piece like that could really kick that offense up a notch, especially with Bieniemy getting ready to come in there and kind of change that offense around. It would be really nice to have a receiver that knows that system.
Speaking of McCole Hardman, though, he actually had surgery today to repair that groin that was giving him so much problems. I think he missed like 11 games. He didn't get to play in the Super Bowl. He come back for just a few plays versus Cincinnati in the AFC Championship. Steve, what do you think this means for McCole Hardman? Do you think this is going to actually be successful and he's going to go on to sign a big contract? Or do you think it's going to be a lingering problem and maybe the Chiefs just give him, maybe he takes a sweetheart deal to stay here?
Yeah, I don't see that happening. But first and foremost, I'm kind of confused about the whole surgery thing. As weird as his injuries were at the end of the year, no one really knew what was going on the whole time. It was kind of confusing. They've also reported that he had tissue in his groin that he had taken out today in surgery. And then NBC reports that Chiefs wide receiver McCole Hardman missed much of the season due to what was called an abdominal injury, and he's having it surgically repaired today. So I'm kind of confused on what he even had done today. But I mean, regardless, I don't think he's a Chief next year. I just really don't. He hasn't worked out that great. Let's just be honest with it. I mean, he's a super fast guy. He's been good when he's had his chances, but they obviously didn't need him that bad. They won the Super Bowl here with Kadarius Toney and Juju and MVS. McCole Hardman, he was missed occasionally mid-season to late season. Like, man, we could really use him in the red zone, stuff like that. But I think McCole Hardman's strength is doing a jet sweep, right? I mean, that's right. McCole Hardman in a nutshell. And the wide receiver market went crazy last year with Christian Kirk and Devontae Adams and all those guys. So I think people really value the wide receiver position. And McCole Hardman has all the potential in the world. I mean, he's so fast. He runs a 4.3. He's played for the championship team 2 out of the last 4 years. So, I mean, he's got the experience and everything. I don't think there's a way that he stays in Kansas City. I think someone pays him a lot more money than I would pay McCole Hardman to be on my team.
Yeah, I think Brett Veach already made 2 moves in anticipation of this. He drafted Sky Moore last year. He was here to replace McCole Hardman, not Tyreek Hill. The games of Tyreek Hill was not very similar. It was to replace McCole Hardman. Also, the Week 8 trade for Kadarius Toney also addressed that. And we're going to have Kadarius Toney going forward now in a rookie contract. I think McCole Hardman walks. If you have to, you look at another receiver in the draft. You may get one late in the first. You may trade up for a kid like Jordan Addison or the Downs kid from North Carolina. Those are 2 big names. Trey Flowers is another kid out of BC that could be somebody we look at. So we got plenty of options in the draft. We got plenty of picks. Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore is only going to get better. I hate to say it, but I think McCole Hardman's played his last game in Kansas City.
Well, I think so too. And I think McCole Hardman's been just a little bit butthurt about that lately. If you've looked at his Twitter, he's put some questionable things on there, talking about how he's always done the most with the least and things like that. And I understand what he's saying, kind of. He never really got a lot of targets and stuff when Tyreek Hill was here. Of course, we have Travis Kelce. Then this year he couldn't stay healthy. So I understand everything is not his fault. It's not that he's a bad player or anything like that. But I mean, I think you just got to accept, reality here. And he's not going to be achieving. It's not because he's a bad player or that no one likes McCole. That's not the case here. But his best bet is to go take a bigger contract somewhere else, see if he can revamp his career there.
Yeah, I totally buy into that. I think he could go somewhere else and be a one or two top target on that team. Kansas City's just not going to happen. It just hasn't worked out that way. Mahomes is now spreading the ball too far. It's too thin as it is. It's just never going to happen. He's a third or fourth option at best here. He is a nice red zone threat to have, but I think we've seen later in the playoffs when he couldn't play, we did find that in Kadarius Toney. We are finding it in Sky Moore. I like McCole Hardman, man. I wish him nothing but the best. If he still wants to go bowling, if he wants to play some Call of Duty, hit me up. Other than that, he's probably out of Kansas City.
Yeah, so we talked about a lot today. Eric Bieniemy going to Washington, Clyde maybe following him there. I mean, he skipped the parade completely to go to a fashion show or something, which is super weird. But either way, Cole over at How About Those Chiefs, he talked about how the Chiefs would not have won the Super Bowl without Eric Bieniemy. Go check that video out right now. Hey, get in the comments here, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell, and we'll be back tomorrow with more on your Kansas City Chiefs. Super Bowl champions, baby.
Super Bowl champs. Let's go Chiefs. Never get tired of saying it.